Now, let's look at the history and evolution of community engagement. Let's look at the history and evolution of community engagement. So looking at this, community engagement has evolved over time. It's a dynamic journey that has, evolved over time in response to changing societal, political, and cultural context. From the early roots to the Industrial Revolution and urbanization, to the civil rights and social movements, to the government and participatory democracy, to international development and sustainability, and now to the 21st century and digital engagement. Now, engagement has been existing long before the word community engagement was birthed. It has been existing because looking at the early roots, the clan systems in the community, people get involved with whatever that is going on, the decision-making process, the civic process in that community. But looking at the clan system, this is more individualistic. It is more individualistic because people of those communities are descendants of a common root. So they are not diverse in the real sense. They are not diverse, but they still, that form of system allows the input of people of the community in the decision-making process, the civic process, the political process in that community. So from this time, it evolved into industrial revolution and urbanization. Now, this industrial revolution and urbanization is as a result of shift towards urbanization and growth of industrial cities. During this period, urban planners and reformers, they recognized the need for community involvement in urban development to address the challenges which was brought by rapid urbanization. So because there is high growth of industrial cities, there's a high growth of urbanization, these urban reformers or urban planners, they now saw the need to involve the community in whatever they are doing. So it's like then they were practicing a form of community engagement. But when it got to the 1960s to the 1970s, the 1960s to 1970s saw the civil rights movement and other social movements that demanded equitable representation and participation. Now, it was this movement that highlighted the need for marginalized communities to have a voice in decisions affecting them. So that is where the world started having something like grassroots organizing, community organizing, participatory action research that now empowered the communities to get involved in whatever that is happening in their community. So from this, it evolved into the government and participatory democracy. Now, in the latter half of the 20th century, governments now started seeing the value of engaging citizens in decision-making processes. Governments started what is called participatory democracy. So they started involving citizens in policy formulation and planning. This is when the term community engagement began to be more widely used. So from the early roots, it was just engagement because it is not necessarily, it didn't necessarily involve group of people. It was a bit individualistic. That means one person might just come because that person belongs to a certain clan of that community. For the early roots, they can come and say, okay, this is what I want to do. It is not about this is what we want to do. That was engagement then. But when it got to the later half of the 20th century, it became government and participatory democracy. When government started involving citizens, they started engaging citizens in decision-making processes, and it was called participatory democracy. This is when the term community engagement came into limelight. It started getting more widely used, and from there it got to the international development and sustainability. So because the term community engagement has gained importance, then approaches like participatory rural appraisal and participatory learning and actions were adopted to involve communities in shaping development initiatives. That is when people started getting more involved because the end goal is sustainability. The world now started taking community engagement so serious. It gained a lot of importance, and people started getting involved, and they started shaping how their community will get development. So we are presently in the 21st century, and now we have the 21st century and digital engagement. Because of the advancement in technology, we now have online platforms, we have social media, we can now have virtual meetings. It is not necessary for people to leave their community and go to national houses, the parliament, before they can contribute. People can contribute even from social media. We have Twitter. From Twitter, you can tweet, and one of the members of the house will see what you are tweeting about, and from there they can take it into consideration. So because of the advancements in technology, there is now a revolutionized community engagement. Community engagement has been revolutionized because we now have technological advancement. Now this has led to new challenges and opportunities in fostering inclusive and diverse engagement. So it started from the early roots, and the evolution continued until now that we have advanced technology and digital platforms, and now people can engage. They can engage with one another. Organizations can engage with the community. Remember, community is not, we can have community of practice. We can have a community of affiliation. So it's not necessarily you going into a community to meet with people face to face before you can actually engage them, because technology has made it a bit easier for engaging a community. That is about history and evolution of community engagement. So it is important to look at the principles and values that guides community engagement before you can say you want to embark on a community engagement initiative or project. You want to engage a community because you want to make a certain impact, which could be social, which could be economic, which could be environment. You need to understand the principles and values that guides community engagement. Now let's look at these principles. We have inclusivity. Respect and cultural sensitivity is another principle. We have collaboration and co-creation. We have transparency and accountability. We have accessibility and communication, and the list goes on and on. Now, inclusivity, it ensures that all community members have the opportunity to participate and be heard. So if you are engaging a community, you must ensure a principle that guides community engagement is you ensuring that all community members have that opportunity to participate and be heard. It is not about you that is engaging the community. It is about the members of the community. So they need to be heard and they need to participate. Respect and cultural sensitivity. In community engagement, it is important to respect diverse cultural norms, beliefs, and practices. You need to respect diverse cultural norms, beliefs, and practices. Collaboration is also an important principle. Collaboration is important because you need to involve community members and stakeholders in decision making. So you as a stakeholder and the community members also as a stakeholder must collaborate to make sure that whatever that is being done in that community were decided by not just you, but also the community members, which is very, very important. Transparency and accountability. You have to be transparent in your actions. You have to be transparent in your intentions. And the decision-making process also need to be transparent. And you need also to be accountable to the community, because you are trying to make an impact. You are trying to make sure that people get involved with whatever that is going on in their community. So you have to be accountable to that community. Whatever you are doing in that community, you need to be accountable. We also have accessibility and communication. You need to make information accessible, and you have to communicate in ways that community members can understand. Before you can engage a community, you need to understand that community so that you'll be able to know how to communicate with the community. So communication is a key principle of community engagement. Equity and fairness. You need to also ensure equal opportunities for participation. You need to involve in your approach. You need to make provision for let's say people with disability or people with other challenges. All right, you need to make provision for that, because that brings fairness. It brings equal opportunities for participation. Empowerment and ownership. Empowerment and ownership means that you in community engagement, you empower community members to have a say in decision and outcomes. So we have flexibility and adaptability. You need to be flexible with the changing circumstances and community needs. As somebody that is interested in engaging the community, you need to be flexible and adapt with whatever circumstances in that community and the needs within that community. Meaningful participation. You need to avoid tokenism. But tokenism means that just put people there so that other people will see that, oh, these people are represented. But in the real sense, you are not even allowing them to participate meaningfully. So this is a key principle in community engagement. You need to ensure that community members participate in ways that genuinely influence decisions. Let's get on the values. Now, the values are empathy. Empathy it is very, very important. It's a key value. It's a key value because when you have empathy, you'll be able to put yourself in the shoes of people in that community. You will be able to understand what challenges people are facing. You will also judge less. You won't be judgmental because you have empathy. You are concerned. So that is empathy. Whereas active listening means you listen actively. Listening is different from active listening. You may listen, but you are not listening actively, because in active listening, you pick the tiniest information that is very important for that community engagement you are embarking on. You listen actively to community voices, you listen to their needs, and you listen to their aspirations. Mutual learning is another value, and mutual learning creates opportunities for both community members and organizations to learn from each other. Now, through mutual learning, the outcome of your community engagement program or initiative will be sustainable, because you have been able to learn from the community members, and the community members are also able to learn from you. Putting everything together will make the outcome of your community engagement sustainable. This is a key value of community engagement. Conflict resolution is also another value. You need to address conflicts through respectful and constructive dialogue. Within a community, there is always conflict, but you as an organization or as an individual coming into that community, before you can say you want to achieve a sustainable outcome, you need to look for ways to make sure there is opportunity for every member of that community. You need to make sure that whatever conflict that is on ground is addressed through respectful and constructive dialogue. You also need to consider the ethical standards of that community. You need to adhere to the ethical standards, including privacy. If a community member tells you that from this interview, I don't want my name to be mentioned, I don't want my face to be shown, you need to adhere to that. You need to adhere to that. You need to take consent very importantly, and integrity too. You need to adhere to ethical standards, which includes privacy, consent, and integrity. The last is continuous improvement. You need to assess and improve regularly. You need to see what is working and what is not working. Because of this value, this continuous improvement will make you to have an open mind towards what you are doing in that community. When you have an open mind, you'll be able to get to work on feedbacks, to request for feedbacks, and also to learn from those feedbacks, because these learnings will help you improve your strategies based on those feedbacks and lessons you have learned. These principles and values of community engagement provide a strong foundation for designing and implementing effective and ethical community engagement initiatives. So they are very important. Now let's look at the key takeaways in this module. In this module, we have been able to understand the concept of community engagement. We mentioned that community engagement has two keywords, that is community and engagement. Community, group of people that are living together within a society. And we also talked about engagement as getting involved with. Now, engagement, community engagement is a strategic process. That means you have to be strategic about it. We also talked about recognizing the importance. We have recognized the importance of community engagement. We talked about the benefits of community engagement. We mentioned many benefits of community engagement, and one of them is that it brings about social innovations. It also enhances problem solving. It informs decision making, and so on. We've been able to also talk about the historical evolution of community engagement from the early roots, which is the clan system, to the participatory democracy, to the 21st century, which we were lucky to have the advancements of technology, which has shaped the way people now engage with different communities. We have also talked about principles and values of community engagement. We mentioned inclusivity, we mentioned collaboration and co-creation, we mentioned transparency and accountability. We also mentioned values, which are empathy. We mentioned active listening. We also mentioned mutual learning. Ethical consideration is another principles and values that we mentioned. In summary, this module discussed about the definition and importance of community engagement. We also looked at the multidimensional nature of community engagement. Multidimensional nature, we talked about, we mentioned the dimension as the what and the forms as the how. We also talked about what has happened in the mid-20th century until the 21st century, which we now have the advancements in technology and digital platforms. Let's look at the preview of Module 2. In Module 2, we'll be talking about preparing for community engagement. And here we'll be talking about identifying stakeholders and target audiences, assessing community needs and assets, ethical considerations, and cultural sensitivity. See you in Module 2.